My name is Penny Pagliaro. On behalf of Abbott House Events Committee, I would like to thank you for attending an evening of inspiration with Jesse Saperstein. At this time, I would like to introduce Abbott House President and CEO, James L. Kaufman.
Thank you. I don't have any seriously long prepared remarks because I felt that when you've got someone who is speaking about their life experience, to spend time talking about them is a waste of time when they can tell you about their life experience directly. But what I did want to do is thank the staff of Abbott House who set this up from the ground up because they were interested in the topic and they felt that Jesse was someone worth hearing, and we do work in the area of developmental disabilities. So I said I would be very quick, and I will. Therefore, I want to thank Penny, Michael, Kristen, Sarah, Maura, Anthony, Irene, Melissa, and Kate, and an enormous amount of other volunteers. So I want to thank them all for coming. I think Jesse will speak for himself, and we will all be glad that we came tonight. Welcome to Abbott House.
Westchester County Executive Rob Bastarino could not be here tonight, but he asked Dr. Iris Pagan, Executive Director of the Youth Bureau Services, to read a proclamation on his behalf. Please welcome Dr. Pagan.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to meet, I want to say, Jesse. You can go to his website. It's www.jessesaperstein.com, and you can read all about him. But when I did that, I was so impressed with one thing. He had the courage to face his difficulties. He had the courage to face them, continue to overcome them over and over with humor and a sense of joy about life. And the only way you can do that is when you struggle every day to make a difference, not only for yourself, but for someone else. So on behalf of the county executive, Jesse. This proclamation outlines what Jesse has accomplished so far, and as I said, you can go to his website for that. But the county executive wants to acknowledge that we have individuals, just like all of you in here, with the potential to make a difference for themselves and for society. Thank you very much, Jesse.
You'll send me these pictures, please, I hope.
You're good.
Got it? Definitely got it.
New York State Senator Andrew Stewart Cousins is not able to be here tonight, and on her behalf, we have Deputy Chief of Staff John Tomlin.
Thank you. Thank you to Abbott House and to Jesse for the invitation, and Jesse for being here. Senator Stewart Cousins is in Albany today for the end of the Senate session, so she's not able to be here. She represents Abbott House, she represents Irvington, all of the town of Greenberg, she represents half of Yonkers, 3/4 of White Plains, New Rochelle, and Scarsdale, so she's got a very big district. I just wanted to say, Jesse, I too read your website, and you're obviously very much an inspiration, and any efforts that you made towards eliminating bullying are definitely very, very important. So I too have a proclamation on behalf of the senator. And the good thing about these proclamations is you get your own day. So that's how this works. So today is June 10th, 2015. It's Jesse Saperstein Day. So you have your own day in Westchester County, and you have your own day in the state of New York. So come on up and again, this proclamation goes through your achievements and a little bit of your biography, but and it's a true testament to all the fantastic things that you've done so far. So congratulations.
This one.
That one.
Which one at a time?
This one.
Yes, right here. Okay. Excellent, thank you.
Thanks.
It's okay. should I begin? Or do you want to say it?
I just want to say,
Okay, sure.
and then you can begin.
Oh, of course, you have to read it by eye.
Tonight we are privileged to listen to the story of a young man named Jesse Saperstein who is on the autism spectrum. 1 in 68 people are on the autism spectrum, which accounts for 1% of the world's population. This is a global concern, and we must find ways to remove the stigma while embracing diversity. Individuals with disabilities face many obstacles, with bullying being one of them. Bullying is a true epidemic that does not discriminate against race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, or disability. Bullies often target those considered different. But we must celebrate these differences. Our differences make us better, and bullying should not be condoned. Jesse hopes to encourage his peers. Even if you have a disability, you can still make great friends, employees, students, co-workers, and romantic partners. Greater education and insight can help eliminate false perceptions about what being on the spectrum means. There is a strong need for greater acceptance, and we need to change our own views. By inspiring compassion, empowerment, and hope, we can change the world one person at a time. Jesse graduated from Hobart and William Smith College in 2004 with a BA degree in English, and he sought out opportunities to become an advocate, hoping to generate awareness for various causes. Despite the positive attempts to give back to the community, Jesse faced difficulties from his peers. Jesse says that being different transformed me into a walking kick-me sign for bullies. Being the poster child for bullying deprived Jesse of the chance for others to see his true self. Jesse's decision to write books was an opportunity to stand up and let others know his story. Rather than let the cruelties of the world define him, he has risen above adversity. The challenges he faced have made him grow as a person while providing positive influence for all those who have been bullied. Jesse's mother, Janice Saperstein, says, "Hope is a glimmer of light in a parent's darkest hours." We gather here tonight to bring hope to future generations that all the puzzle pieces of the world, no matter the shape, size, or color, can begin to tolerate and respect one another. We are lucky enough tonight to hear one special voice in person. So now let's give a warm welcome for Jesse Saperstein.
I have to admit I'm extremely overwhelmed. I've never had a day named after me anywhere. And in fact, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I think the most I've ever won in my life is 4th place in the Pugsley Adams lookalike contest. And I cannot forget to do this, otherwise it's going to haunt me for exactly 3.5 weeks. I'd like to pass these babies around. I'm going to start with the back, so the people who end up in the back are not totally screwed. And then I'll give one to the front as well. Oh, you can pass it out. Dr. Pagan, right? I try not to start off every presentation by screwing up people's names, so I'd like to thank Dr. Pagan. I was told not to thank anybody except the committee for Abbott House, but I do want to thank Penny and Maura because I happened to run into them at the United Nations for the forum about employment for people on the autism spectrum. And I'd like to explain about the chocolates. I did not, Dr. Pagan just said, that's really nice, but it's not about being nice or fishing for compliments or trying to suck up to you. Okay, fine, maybe that's 18% of why I did that, but the real reason is because of a little thing that I call disability insurance. With my Asperger's, I've learned not to blame outbursts or inappropriate conduct on my condition. That leads to a road toward hell, and it's no future in adulthood. I've learned that the hard way, along with every single other lesson. But because I'm human like everybody else, and I struggle every day with this condition, there is a chance I will say something inappropriate or hypocritical or something ridiculous and make a mistake. when that day comes, or if, God forbid, I give a bad speech one day, hopefully people will show mercy because I handed out expensive chocolates. And, by the way, it's not just disability insurance, it's insurance for humanity. But I would not depend on it. In fact, I pulled out with my employer. I did something that angered everybody. I explained the reason I come in during blizzards and learn new jobs overnight to save your souls is because eventually I'll let you down and hopefully you can focus on everything else. But he told me that only works once or twice. Before I continue, I want to pull up one of my videos for the projector. This is going to be an intro for the Keeping It Real project that was funded by grant money for New York University. This is one of those projectors where you have to move it this way. Okay. I was born April 2nd, 1982. Growing up as a child with autism was extremely lonely and times. I was just known as really weird, creepy, sketchy, somebody who had to be corrected. Bullying took away my dignity. I grew up in a time when there was no anti-bullying movement. Bullying was seen as a self-inflicted consequence for choosing to be abnormal. I'm a professional motivational speaker and an anti-bullying activist. I travel to many schools to lecture about disabilities, giving people a chance. I wish that people would understand that autism is not a character defect, it's not an abnormality, it's a character trait. I think it's extremely important to motivate people with autism or any disability to advocate for themselves. I also want them to know that they have a future. I want people with Asperger's to take a look at me. I want them to see this is what happens, perhaps, if I work hard. And also, there will be a day when their weirdness is going to be appreciated. I want to explain a couple things in the video. You're probably wondering, why do I walk around with a broken mirror? I did that for a while as a metaphor, because when you look at yourself in the mirror to show you the mercy that does not always come from somebody else, we often just see the cracks and the flaws, everything that's allegedly wrong with us, and we have to look beyond that. And that's why Abbott House is so incredible, because you are these children's mirrors and other people affected by men's challenges. And hopefully during hard times when no one is giving them the break that they deserve, they will remember you and look at you for their reflection. And the other thing I'd like to explain is why I was carrying around a children's butterfly garden. When I was struggling with writer's block, and I mean severe procrastination and writer's block for the first or second book, I tried getting Milton ant farms and a butterfly garden, hoping that childhood nostalgia would stimulate creativity, but it actually just turned out to be a waste of money and pretty ridiculous. But, so that was one of the props for the video. And as you can see in the video, my realities have dramatically changed. The class where I taught, where you can see people who have Down syndrome, that's a creative writing class for living resources in Albany, New York. And it's very interesting how good luck comes in explosions, because not only do I have a day named after me, apparently, but this is going to be the first week I'm going to have an actual real job that can help me make a living, and I'm also moving into my first apartment in 33 years, so things are really going to go out. Right. Thank you for the applause, but the reason I mention that is because I have lived two extremely separate realities as somebody with this condition. For most of my 33 years, I was treated as a social pariah, subject to severe bullying and victimization. And even when I became successful, that did not often equal success. I remember after I became a successful author with Penguin Group USA and was traveling around the country giving speeches, the best a place could give me was washing dishes for only $9 an hour. So I did that for a while. And the lesson I learned is that I was as proud of the dishwashing job as I was being allowed to speak in front of the United Nations. My fear for your children is that they may be so burdened by their hardships that they will let that affect them in adulthood, and they will end up unemployed like so many of my peers. The unemployment rate for people on the autism spectrum is abominable. It's between 80 to 90%. And my advice is whatever someone does, no matter how mediocre it seems to others, they should always be lauded as heroes for avoiding the disability benefits that they do not need. So many people as you can attest, are crippled by adversity that has nothing to do with their disability. They're disabled by other factors. I'm going to get my PowerPoint, and before we continue, I want you to be prepared for a whole evening of magnetized autism awesomeness. That's exactly what it says on the PowerPoint, by the way. Let's see if I can remember to do this. Where's that mouse? Okay, anyone see the mouse yet? This is going to be a pretty long night. You see it? Okay. Come on. Someone may have to fiddle with the mouse because I don't, there it is. There it is. By the way, I screwed up the mouse on purpose just to demonstrate that, at this point in my life I won't freak out over something so menial, and I'd like you to gaze upon these words by Elizabeth Smart. Words are more powerful than physical chains, and I've had both, so I know. And you'll hear that a lot, that some people wish they'd just been beaten every day and the bruises would have healed a lot faster than the mental wounds. The mental wounds are the most poisonous, in my opinion. I'm sure you will agree with that. I want to continue by reading some of my notes. And as I'm reading, I'm going to do something that does not make sense, but it will after I explain. This is what bullying does to so many people. It never goes away. In many cases it gets easier, but it never becomes easy. We can do the best we can to smooth things out, repair some of the damage, and it's always going to become a little bit smoother, but it'll never ever be completely smooth. I was once called the busiest person in all of Dutchess County because I'm always relentlessly doing something. And you'll find that to be true among many on the autism spectrum. They don't sit still. And whenever you hear the words, "I am bored," I can guarantee there's going to be a lot of trouble. But with me, it's a little bit different. During times of idleness, that's when I start to remember things from the past, instances of bullying, and sometimes all it takes is one phrase to resurrect a memory and ruin what was a perfectly good day. I think of these memories like mosquitoes. I'll go into detail about this later, but I hiked the Appalachian Trail back in 2005, so approximately a decade ago. I remember there was one shelter that was infested with ravenous mosquitoes in a swampy area, and I tried burrowing under the sleeping bag. I sealed up the tent, I think, and it never worked. They still found their way in, and after about 2 hours of trying to fight and kill every mosquito on the Appalachian Trail, I finally gave up and started walking throughout the entire night, and the mosquitoes could not keep up. I was so much faster, and because of that, I survived the night without going insane. The best thing I think you can do for your students, children, and adults affected by challenges is always give them a sense of purpose. Always remind them that they have to wake up at least 3 or 4 days a week to do something before 9 o'clock a.m. People always ask me, what changed for you? How did you become so mature? It had nothing to do with maturity. It had to do with the fact that there's no longer any time to engage in nonsense or start wars on Facebook or find trouble when there does not have to be any. Being employed, speaking out against bullying, that's how I keep those demons at bay. I'm going to, and you probably know about Asperger's, but I'm going to teach you a little bit anyway. Before I continue, I want to explain why I have a ginormous novelty fly swatter. I always travel with the bare necessities, as you can see. I call this a verbal gaff swatter. It's for all the inappropriate comments that could and may likely come out of my mouth. So over time, this has become less and less necessary as a metaphor, of course. And the reason for that is because I'm not able to let go or move on. I have to say that my biggest demon or obstacle has transitioned into a huge strength. So one of the things that continues to motivate me are the experiences from the past. The times I've lost jobs or faced consequences, it's always at the surface. And I think that's what makes a good anti-bullying advocate and motivational speaker for anybody. They have to keep things at the surface and never let it die down. I believe that for most people, they're not able to let go or move on so easily. But it seems like those without Asperger's eventually get to that point after many years have passed, and there is no eventually for me. And that is why I'm here and have eventually become successful with a developmental disability. But here's some characteristics of me and my peers, even though obviously everybody is different. There's a popular expression in my community: when you have met one person with autism, you have met one person with autism. They can have these characteristics: being angry, mellow, saddled with learning disabilities, selfish, generous, lighthearted, and so forth, passive-aggressive. And I'm going to fix this. It looks a little bit skewed here. They also may have trouble transitioning into new environments. These transitions are burdened by difficulties with generalization. As you may know, generalization means that you're able to understand that if something works or is appropriate in one situation, it's not going to be appropriate the next 1,000 times in many different environments. And this is what crippled me throughout much of my life. I would do what felt natural without understanding how to adapt to new expectations. especially overnight. I'll give you an example of one of the things that provoked bullying in college. I chose to be a class clown because that's what earned occasional respect in high school. In high school, by the way, I like that expression, even a broken watch is right 2 times a day. So that's how I felt about my obnoxiousness in class. Sometimes people would burst out laughing until tears were rolling down their cheeks. One time, my grade in American history class was raised from a B+ to an A- because I ended up reading a dirty poem I made up about Bill Clinton fighting with Lorena Bobbitt. And one of the lines in the poem was, by the way, it was called The Night Before Impeachment, and modeled after "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," of course. One of the lines in my poem was, "I've had enough of your excuses, President Clinton. No more ifs, ands, or buts, because I just so happen to be crazy, and in a matter of moments, you'll be only nuts." I assume if my high school teacher let me tell it, I could say it in public in front of you, but that's what earned respect in high school. And in college, such outbursts were considered to be abominable. Even once in a while, it was extremely inappropriate. But all I can tell you is that everything did seem like a good idea at the time. So, what I like about the Abbott House is that you provide mercy during these transitional periods where more bullying could occur because someone's trying to adjust to their new setting. They may go into a foster community, and there's so much change that they rebel the best they can through occasional inappropriate conduct. I like how you have the programs in someone's home community so they can get used to their new expectations while being in a place of familiarity. I also admire all the hats you wear. I looked at your website and there were so many things, I could not absorb them all. Rehabilitation programs, foster families, volunteer activities like Meals on Wheels, things to give someone a sense of purpose until the world gives them that break that they deserve. So I'm hoping you will keep it up, and hopefully you'll involve me in some capacity. By the way, every time you clap, I'm going to clap as well because I'm clapping for you. It's not all about me today. The only time it's all about me is on April 2nd, which is my birthday. And I don't know if you've seen movies about autism, but Rain Man and movies like The Boy Who Could Fly are a lot of nonsense, just Hollywood fantasy, especially The Boy Who Could Fly. I don't think that mentally induced self-aviation has much to do with autism. And these movies, they always had a similar thing, like in Mercury Rising, the boy with autism had the key that would destroy the whole country, and he had to be exterminated. It was all about unlocking a puzzle. But there's so much more to the condition than that, than just those savant skills. Even though everyone's different, here are some similarities that make it easier to have a diagnosis. Monotone voice, resistance to change, eccentricities, hand flapping, and age-inappropriate friendships, and very unique interests, by the way. So I want to share with you some of my interests. This is my pet ghost, and I think stop making this noise. One of my interests is Halloween. I've gone trick-or-treating until my 30s, and I'll still go if there's no other plans on October 31st. The reason for that, it's fun. There's free candy, and I call it Asperger's Independence Day. It's the only day of the whole year you can go out looking like a freak of nature, and nobody will bat an eye. I went to I went to that Halloween parade in the city, and it was difficult to tell who was dressed for Halloween and who looks like that every single day of the year. Other similarities or contradictions with intellectual versus social intelligences. And here are some very common interests of the autism population. Craft, Super Mario. I think I have one of my trains in here. This is a very common interest in the autism community. Thomas the Tank Engine. I heard it has something to do with the facial expressions of all the models. And this is what I mean by contradictions with intellectual and social intelligences. This is a boy who's extremely intelligent, who does not understand the concept of maybe pulling on the door and achieving a different result. And that's basically an exaggeration of how I am. If I drive to a hotel, I'll park maybe a mile away from the front entrance with all my luggage in the car. And then hopefully it occurs to me that this is a different scenario and I can just drive up there. And with traveling, I'm all about time management because I'm going to get my little prop out. I am plagued by bad luck and disaster whenever I travel. So I give myself something called screwing up time, which means a lot of extra time to go to the wrong city, misjudge the distance, and still correct everything, and show up at least a few minutes early. This is my aquatic hourglass. And here we go. It has only a minute of time anyway. I remember the time this only happened once, but I missed a big event completely because I went to John Jay High School, but the problem was it was the John Jay High School in Westchester instead of Hopewell Junction. So that was a really bad day for me. And I tell you these anecdotes to demonstrate something very important. It's not about surmounting your weaknesses in many cases. It is about making your weakness a strength and understanding the true cause of bullying. It's not about you and your deficiencies, it's about somebody else and the battle that they're fighting. And you just happen to be in their path of negativity. I think of bullying as a ginormous fan that spews negativity all day long. And anyone in its path will be splattered with adversity, insults, and things that are not fair. I'd like to explain when things changed for me, when I realized that the qualities of Asperger's were an asset. By the way, there's a myth that it gets better. There's a whole movement called It Gets Better. I think that's a bunch of nonsense, even though it's well-intentioned. For me, it did not get better for a very long time. In college, I thought I would be surrounded by people who were more educated, open-minded. Instead, I was called names like Sketchy Jesse, Scary Jesse, the Stalker, the Wanderer for quite a few years. Afterwards, I had to make a change and try to put that partially behind me. So I chose to walk the Appalachian Trail. I started walking in March 2005, and I finally completed after 7 months and 9 days later. I completed the trail in Maine on Mount Katahdin. This is the summit back when I was 40 pounds lighter due to the relentlessness of the journey. And what I learned is that the reason the success came was due to having Asperger's. Throughout the whole hike, I spoke gibberish. I did not know when it was time to stop, and I acted really weird. And the best thing of all, I was not able to let go or move on. Basically, every insult that was hurled at me my whole life propelled me from the state of Georgia all the way to Maine. And I hope that your students will eventually come come to terms with their so-called challenges and understand that some people jump into roses and come out smelling like manure. Some people jump into manure and come out smelling like roses. By the way, that's not the original expression. I had to clean it up just a little bit. But there are some individuals that go through tremendous adversity and they come out as stronger and better people. I'm sure that will be the case with the people you serve. This is a quality that is quite common, an intense absorption in special interests. In the case of Pee Wee Herman, it's his bicycle. That was what I was like after I thought my DVD collection had been stolen about 10 years ago after graduating from college. So I'm interested in hearing about what your students and children enjoy. Are they like an exaggeration of, is Pee Wee Herman an exaggeration of how they are? For me, some of my special interests include things like donating blood in addition to Halloween, and also roller skating. I'm the oldest person to have a birthday party at Hyde Park Roller Magic, and it's always turned into an autism fundraiser to make it a little bit less eccentric and justify that behavior. So I want to say something about donating blood. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. It is the only time in your entire life when you can watch TV on a recliner and not feel like you're wasting time or should be doing something more productive. Nobody will ever say, finish up or just get going, ever. And I consider it to be a barrier from the entire world. And as someone just mentioned, there's a video of me donating blood while giving a speech at the same time. And you can find that on YouTube, by the way. So how much time do we have, Penny? I want to keep tabs on the time. Another 10 minutes? Oh, I've got to really move fast, okay. Reach for the skies to end the myths of bullying. Bullying is a self-inflicted consequence for choosing to be abnormal. It's character building. The internet is the Wild West. Bullying has died down or is a product of media hysteria. By the way, that was a common thing in my childhood. Bullying was seen, it is very similar to this YouTube video that I'm going to pull up right now. Come on, mouse. I give up. Does anyone see the mouse? Please click on the video when you have a chance. Okay, I found it. Here we go. Okay. I don't understand with laptops, why can't it show up on the screen when it's featured on the laptop? You know, I'm not going to waste time trying to find the video, don't worry about it. But in this video, I like it because the little bird is annoying the cat. He's tormenting his natural enemy, and this is kind of how people viewed my actions in childhood. You know, they thought, my fifth grade teacher once said, if any child is having problems with bullying in my class, it's probably something that student is doing to bring it on themselves. So those were the realities in my childhood. Okay. A lot of bullying was addressed as in, he's doing this just to get attention. If he only stopped, things would get easier. These were myths, and fortunately today we know better. I'm going to pull up the. Okay, I'd like to elaborate on the internet as the Wild West with no boundaries. Back in 1999, I was a victim of what we now call catfishing, where somebody pretends to be a person they're not, usually posing as a romantic partner. Sometimes it's to get money, and other times it's just malicious bullying. And that was the case with my experience. For 6 months, I communicated with a woman named Elizabeth West. She told me about how incredible she thought I was, that she saw me in the hallway when I was always too shy to start a conversation. And we communicated for all this time. And later on, she told me that she had been sexually assaulted while camping in the woods and was now pregnant. That's a very common thing in those cases, people preying on someone's sympathy. You're not going to attack a cancer victim because they can't meet you. So the people involved were so desperate to keep the prank going for as long as possible that they actually found a woman to pose as the one I was talking to online to meet me at a local diner. And in this day and age, fortunately, we could take action to deal with something. There were no laws back then. The best thing I can the best advice I can give you is to teach your children about red flags, some of the basic facts of life. That there's people who are naturally malicious, they have a skewed sense of morality. And whenever something bad happens, let them know that there's a learning experience, but they should never blame themselves. For me, it usually took several times of making the same mistake before some lesson set in. I've always believed it's because I was so angry and shameful that all that negativity prevented those lessons from sinking in. The other thing that I think you can do is maybe hire people who come back with their success stories. Hire graduates of the Abbott House to serve as mentors for those who are going through the throes of the obstacles they finally surmounted. Somebody who can say, you know, the same thing happened to me when I was your age, and these were the consequences, and this is how I dealt with it. I'm going to show this video.
My name is Saperstein. I am 29 years old, and I have been affected by bullying my entire life because of a condition called Asperger's syndrome.
what precious time we have left with the rest of the video, which is a minute longer. But the 12-minute full version can be found easily on YouTube. And what I like about the video is the fact that there's people, young individuals on the autism spectrum who are advocating for themselves. And this is how I was able to surmount my obstacles and change things for others through education, by putting myself out there, by being the voice that not everyone wants to listen to. And a lot of bullying is caused by lack of education. And it continued in a different form throughout adulthood until my 2 books were published. It was not so much people who were out to get me, who targeted my naivete because of too much free time on their hands. It was out of fear. How much time do we have? 5 minutes?
Yeah, because then we're going to do question and answer.
Okay, sure.
Take your time.
All right, I will briefly abridge these anecdotes. All of a sudden, I would walk into say a bank, and everybody would scatter. It became a ghost town. And the first couple of times I brushed it off and thought, I'm just being paranoid. They probably had things to do in the back. But after 10 or 15 times, I finally said, look, do I smell? What's going on? I cannot fix it if you don't tell me. Apparently, what I've been doing was lifting up my head periodically to gaze at a gorgeous bank teller who looked like a supermodel. I didn't even know I was doing it. And fortunately, this has become much improved due to peripheral vision and keeping my head moving in multiple directions. So I will pretend I'll stare at Penny without being caught. And that's just one story. The rest will probably scare the pants off of you. But anyway, what also changed, besides harnessing the staring problem, was forced education. I created the How Am I Doing cards. That is for individuals who could and most likely will have problems throughout their community. The How Am I Doing cards lists a diagnosis, the qualities, possible mistakes, and most important, a way for people in the community to get in touch with a trusted caregiver or the individual themselves if they have the tools to self-advocate. And the third and most important reason for the cards, besides education and ending bullying, is because whenever I would advocate for myself after creating trouble, the reaction was always the same. Well, is staring part of your Asperger's too? Always a snide comment followed by a cocked head of sarcasm. So one day I had enough and I said, I know people have worse problems than me, but I'm not going to live this way anymore. Therefore, the cards are handed out and no problems ever since. I always tell people if I don't know what's broken, there's no fighting chance of ever fixing it. And it's allowed me to get away with a lot of eccentricity, by the way. One of the things that led to stalking allegations was handing out really long birthday cards to acquaintances. Some people would say, that's the nicest thing anyone has ever done for me. And others would say, that was really creepy. And if you do that again, I'm calling the police. Now, for the latter individuals, honestly, I don't care. I'm still going to hand out my cards to whoever I feel like it. I don't want to creep people out, and but I also don't want to miss out on those who have their day made by one of the cards. It's all about playing the odds and not being at the mercy of what others say. By the way, speaking of not being at someone's mercy, someone said a very profound expression. Trying to win an argument with a Facebook troll is like playing chess with a rooster. No matter how good you are at chess, the rooster is just going to knock all the pieces over, poop all over the board, and still strut around in victory. Some people may wonder, what do I do about a student who's engaging in such eccentric behaviors that I honestly think that the bullying is the consequence? My advice is to let them know how their conduct affects others but avoid using phrases such as, if you only did this, people would like you better. Practice the ratio of 1 to 3. That means for every one thing they do that's inappropriate that you have to offer criticism for, you find 3 more times where they do something right and overreact for those 3 times. I have not solved any problems by ever letting go or moving on, unless the rare case in which I have no choice in the matter. But anyway, no matter how bizarre, age inappropriate, or ridiculous something may be, always find that elusive compromise. I'll give you an example. There was one boy who kept interrupting my presentations by mocking my last name. He kept saying, "You're such a sap. Why are you such a sap?" And I looked over at the teacher. You know, isn't this the part where you're supposed to put a stop to him and kick him out of the room? And finally I said, "My words cannot compete with your constant interruptions. So how about we make a deal? I'll let you play with my hacky sack, and you can only interrupt me in increments of 15 minutes at a time." And that worked. So I think that we have a lot more in common than we realize. And no matter how, where is it? I had it right, oh, here it is. Uh-oh, maybe I have another one. This is not a good situation. Maybe someone can untangle this. This is my cup and ball. Oh, please let me have another one. That's not happened for a very long time, and of course it happened tonight. But when you play with these little toys, I'll get another one out. Thanks. When you play with these little toys that are very eccentric, you will get the appeal and understand why people with my condition do these things. You can fiddle with that for a little while. So I think it's time to wrap things up and do questions and answers. Okay, this is most important. By the way, I always have a lot more slides than I need in case I have like 3 hours to talk. And I do these presentations constantly, so creating like 100 new presentations is not always realistic. This is Albert Newton. I said this before. I'd like you to embrace those who graduated and let them enhance the lives of your current children, because they will be able to have the empathy that can only be achieved by experience with the condition personally. And also, I want to work with Sesame Street and introduce the first Muppet with Autism, which has not been successful because they're afraid of the bullies, the people who will write hate mail about how the Muppet is portrayed. So I'm going to work with them hopefully on a live action sequence with human actors who have autism. Hopefully maybe me and a small child. I also want to emphasize that this is another goal which may not come to fruition, but I'm not giving up. I want to work with my friend David Elmore Smith on his goals, because he used to weigh over 600 pounds, then he lost 400 pounds, was in the shape of an Olympic athlete. Then he regained almost all of those 400 pounds. And it's a testament to the fact that failing does not make you a failure, but refusing to get up unfortunately does. I also want to create a book called The Losers Club, a collection of miserable failures. That will be a book in which a lot of celebrities talk about times when they have failed miserably and were truly pathetic. Don't worry. Oh, you got it. Good job. Okay, should we do this? Actually, I'll give it to someone else. I'll give it to You, Penny, since you did all the work, you should play with it. Okay, this is the last one, then we'll do the questions and answers. By law, at least one teacher in the building should have a disability and be able to relate to many of their students. I also think that to really put an end to the bulk of bullying, by law, every school has to have 2 public orators come in to address the subject. Hopefully somebody with a disability and even a former bully who has been reformed and can attest to the pain that they caused and how guilty they will feel forever. And the other thing is that sometimes people on the autism spectrum or with other disabilities are not going to get the breaks that are deserved while trying to find a job. They may be unemployed for a while and struggle dearly. If they have this option, they can make a living by visiting schools, making money and changing the world, hopefully. One time when I was groveling for employment, someone said, "Why can't you just give your speeches and be happy about it?" I felt that to be very insulting because I would be capable of having a full-time job even back then. But at the same time, the speaking engagements were a great way to pay the bills and help build a life. So that could be a viable option for so many people after they surmount their obstacles, thanks to your incredible support and self-advocacy skills. Speaking of your support, I thank you so much for advocating for my peers and anybody with challenges so they will have a fighting chance at a future. And as you can imagine from all the stuff I did not get to due to the limited amount of time, I do want to come back here, and I will come for free, and I will swear on the hourglass that I will come